Hi, everybody, and welcome back. In this segment, we are talking about how to get sellers to hire you. In your workbook, and there's an attachment, a handout called 10 Questions to Ask Your Seller. Definitely read along, follow along, and please utilize this in your listing presentations. I promise you it will change your outcomes, it will change your confidence, it will change your presentations. Unfortunately, too many agents go into a listing presentation so excited to share with those sellers how fabulous they are and throw up all over the sellers and tell them all the reasons why they should hire them. Really, it's about the seller. It's not about us as agents, no matter how fabulous we are. Whether you're new, whether you have been in this industry for 20 plus years and have sold $200 million in real estate in the last 5 minutes, really all the seller cares about is, can you sell my house? So going in and totally switching the way that we present by doing it in the form of asking questions has proven to be a really powerful tool and a much more effective tool. Of course, it wouldn't be a class that I taught or even a segment in this coaching program that I taught without a book recommendation. And so here is the book recommendation for this segment. It is called Good Leaders Ask Great Questions by John Maxwell. Everything by John Maxwell. But this book in particular changed the way that I do listing presentations, and it changed the way that I teach other agents to do listing presentations. And that is by asking more and better questions. So here we go. 10 questions to ask your seller. Number 1, what is most important to you? And then just zip it. Ask the question and then let the seller talk. Let them talk to you about what is most important to them. Chris Voss, my favorite negotiator, talks in his books and his TED Talks and in his masterclass about repeating the last 3 words that someone says. Because sometimes people will finish a thought and then they're not really sure if it's safe to share the next sentence with you. Or maybe they haven't actually cultivated the next sentence, they're still thinking. But if you say the last 3 words that they say, it shows that you're listening, it shows that you're engaged, and it gives them permission at the brainwave level, it gives them permission to keep going and to share more with you. So what is most important to you is a great question. They will tell you whether it's price, whether it's timing, or if both are really super important to them. Or maybe it's something entirely different, but ultimately it's your job to ask the question and then listen for the answer. Number 2, what are your expectations of this transaction? If they tell you, I expect you to hold an open house every single Saturday and show up with gourmet catered food, I mean, you want to rein those expectations in right at the beginning, especially if they have crazy expectations like that. So making sure that you listen, you ask the question, you listen, and then maybe help clarify any expectations that they have that are just not in alignment with current market realities. Number 3. What is your reason for selling? Very important that we know that. For me, if I were to decide to sell my house today so that I could relocate to Orlando, Florida and live really close to Disney World, I would have a different timeline than I would have a few years ago if I were selling my house because my dad had medical issues and I needed, as an only child, to sell my home and move back to California in order to take care of him. Totally different timeline there. And so if it's relocation, we need to know that. If it's urgent, if it's a divorce situation, if there's a death of a family member, there are a lot of different reasons that people have for selling. We need to know what those reasons are so that we can help that client cross the finish line according to the timeline that they have in their cute little head. Number 5, this is so valuable for you. What do you love most about the house? Now remember, let's back up a little bit. Once upon a time, these sellers actually bought this house. They found it, they fell in love with it, they made an offer on it, it was accepted, and they crossed the finish line on that transaction, and theoretically, if it's an owner-occupied home, they moved into it. This has been their house. You want to listen very carefully to everything they tell you they love about the house, because this is going to become your marketing plan. Take notes on everything they say. If they tell you, oh, we fell in love from the very first moment we walked in the door and we saw the vaulted ceilings and the fireplace and the kitchen and the whatever, write down absolutely everything they say, because this is how you are going to incorporate what they say in your property description. And you're also going to use this in all of your marketing. Not only does it make the seller feel validated and heard that you're utilizing what they tell you in your marketing strategy, you know that it worked because they actually fell in love with and purchased that property. So just asking the seller, what do you love about the house? And then walk around with them and either listen to what they say or take an iPad or your iPhone and record it. Use the voice memo app to your advantage and ask the seller, do you mind if I record this? Always ask their permission first. You don't want them to think that you're doing something sketchy or weird. Not a good foundation trust relationship right there. But definitely encapsulate and incorporate everything that they say into your own marketing strategy. And you get that by asking the question and then recording everything they say. Number 6, have you ever worked with another agent? And then a follow-up question for that, how did that go? And allowing them to tell you their thoughts, their feelings about other agents. And this is the place that if they have a family member who's an agent, you're going to find that out. You want to make sure that they're not there to use you and to have you do a CMA for them so that they can turn around and give it to a family member who hasn't been practicing real estate for very long or really at all. They're doing it as a hobby and they're just trying to use you. We don't want that for you. We're trying to help you develop a professional business, not a professional hobby. So asking that question and figuring out what their experience has been in the past is also very important. Number 7, what is your bottom line, especially as it relates to what is your bottom line financially? Because going back to their expectations, I've had situations personally where the seller just was not living on planet reality at all. And we needed to rein that in. And ultimately, we made the business decision a couple of times to release a seller from a listing agreement because they just did not have accurate expectations at all about market conditions or about what their property was worth. So being able to dial that in is absolutely essential. This would be a really good time for me to just briefly mention NetSheets. We're going to talk more about NetSheets as a tool in your business later in this course. But being able to reach out to an amazing title company, there are a number of them out there in marketplaces all across the country that offer your use of a NetSheet, a seller NetSheet. Being able to break down all of the costs of the transaction and being able to present those to your seller so that they can see once they pay off their first mortgage and or their second mortgage and they pay your commission, the buyer's agent commission, and all of the costs affiliated with the sale of their home. What are they going to net at the end of the day? That is an absolutely essential piece. And for you to incorporate that now as an essential part of your marketing strategy for the seller and as a tool to help them figure out what they're going to net at the end of the day. And also, we're going to talk later in the program about multiple offers. I call that juggling chainsaws. Being able to have net sheets for each offer, which your title company of choice can usually help you with this, can really help the seller to make the very, very best decision and elevates your level of professionalism as their trusted advisor in this real estate transaction. That's what it's all about, always, is you positioning yourself as the professional and as the trusted advisor to help them cross the finish line. So, When you talk about the bottom line, letting the seller know that as part of the service you provide, you will be providing them with a net sheet on all offers that come in will really help their confidence level, especially if your seller has an analytic personality and they really need to see facts, figures, and numbers. It will create so much trust and so much professionalism for you. And it's a tool that you do not have to reinvent the wheel in order to get your hands on that and start utilizing that. Number 8, how do you like to be communicated with? This is going to be completely different depending on their generation and their personal style. A lot of people like to communicate through Facebook Messenger. That is not my personal favorite. But I have talked to agents from all over the country who have missed out on listing opportunities because they weren't checking Facebook Messenger on a regular basis. Don't let that be you. Talk to your client ahead of time about how they like to be communicated with, and so that you are not missing crucial, important messages that they are sending to you, and you know how they would like to receive messages from you. Very, very important. Number 9, are there any upgrades to the house since you bought it? Very important question, so that you can make sure that if there are any upgrades that you might not have noticed otherwise, like maybe solar panels, like a tankless hot water heater, anything that's going to add significant value to the house potentially, but are not things that you would necessarily notice, you definitely want to talk to the seller about those things. And if you have questions about how to price unusual features into your CMA, definitely talk to your broker and or your favorite appraiser so that you can try and figure out how to make those adjustments. Number 10, what are your plans after selling? This is important for a couple of reasons, because so many real estate professionals lose out on the ability to get referrals. Let's say your client is moving to Orlando, Florida. Lucky them. If you can connect them with a fabulous agent, either through your network of professionals, through your franchise, if you work for a large franchise, or through the designations that you're going to hopefully start earning, you can go into nar.realtor and you can search for other real estate professionals in other marketplaces who hold the same designations and certifications that you do, which for me is essential. If I am sending a buyer lead to Texas, I absolutely do not ever send a lead or a referral to any other agent unless I know that they have the same skill sets that I do. So I always look for an accredited buyer representative when I am sending a buyer referral. And we've talked about the foundational 4, so I'm not going to bore you with that again, but just make sure you're not missing out on those referral opportunities by asking question number 10. What are your plans after selling? If they need to buy, let's say they find out they're having triplets and the house they are currently living in, that's their reason for selling, which is question number 3. They need to buy something bigger. I'm certain that you would also love to help that client walk through both transactions. So don't leave money on the table for yourself. Make sure that you're asking all the right questions so that you can truly serve people at the highest level. If you have additional questions that you think are awesome, we would love to hear them. We would love to add to this list and make it more robust. We don't want to make it too long, however. The object of the game is to create a conversation with the seller so that they can see that they can trust you, that they want to hire you. And at the end of the day, you have the expertise and the knowledge and the know-how to get the job done so that you can then ask them, is there any reason why you wouldn't sign with me tonight? And have them sign that listing agreement and let's get started, and boom, here we go. The object of the game is to have them hire you, and so that you can get off and running with your first transactions and knock it out of the park so that they will leave you great reviews and send you referrals so that you can build your solid real estate business.